Welcome. I'm Bernice Ross, the CEO and President of Brokerage Up and RealEstateCoach.com, and I'm very happy to welcome one of my favorite guests, Michael Krisa. He is my go-to person for video. He knows so much about all the aspects of the business. He is the executive editor at Agent Inner Circle. You can reach him at michael@agentinnercircle.com. If you need help with video and training, I mean, Michael's just such a great expert. He speaks on this internationally. But today, Michael, we have you here to talk about print marketing. Thank you for being with us. And you're the video guy. Why print marketing?
Well, I'm of that school that everything works once, right? And if you rely on one particular thing, I don't want to put my eggs all in one basket, as it were, unless I was making scrambled eggs, and that would be perfect. But I think what we see, we're living in this age now where everything's gone digital. Everything's gone digital. Emails, bots, and at the end of the day, there's something desirable, but when we come home and we sift through a pile of garbage, that when there's a handwritten note, or a handwritten letter that's addressed to us that rises to the top of the surface and that gets our attention. And print is working. It's a tool, but like any tool, you have to know how to use it. And if I look at technology, let's look at email campaigns. Well, like me, Bernice, I'm sure you get hundreds of emails every day. I look at Diane's inbox, my wife, she's up to, I think, 2,500 emails that haven't been opened yet. So that tells me that's not an effective way to reach people. It's got to be print, which is old school, but it's got to be direct response mail. That's the key. It's got to be direct response.
Now, when you say direct response mail, what does that mean?
So by definition, direct response means it's written to me, but there's a whole formula involved in writing something, and this comes to good copywriting. It's got to speak to me. There's got to be a captivating headline. You have to give me a reason to open something. And so it all starts off with, well, you were holding up a handful of propaganda. Do you still have that there, Bernice? You had
Yes,
a handful of stuff.
I have all kinds of propaganda here. I mean, I have.
And there you go. I call it propaganda because nobody looks at that stuff, right? But if I were to send you something like this, big stamp on it, it's addressed to you. This looks like something that your Aunt Betty just sent you. It's a Christmas card. It's a birthday card.
This one came in a embossed envelope. It was really quite nice. So, but
then as soon as you open that, it's, again, I call it propaganda. I'm not trying to.
Yep.
Because
just
it doesn't
propaganda.
Yeah.
Welcome to your home. Gee, I'm not going to buy this home. Why would you say I'm going to be welcome there?
Well, so let's even go back to the psychology of why people open mail. First of all, we're trying to solicit business. Let's cut to the chase here. I'm not sending stuff out because I'm a nice guy. I'm cultivating my database. And what really works effectively is the first thing I'm going to do is I come up with a newsletter. And the psychology here is very simple. When somebody's already bought or sold real estate, at that point before they bought it or before they sold it, they're in a pattern, and there's a part of your brain called the Reticular Activator. And what that does is it pulls in everything that is important to you at that time about what you're doing. So the example, a good one is, Bernice, when was the last time you bought a new car?
2 years ago.
And what did you buy?
Bought a Subaru.
A Subaru. And before you bought that Subaru, you did research to make sure that was the car that you wanted, and you probably went onto chat groups and you did all your homework.
Yes, well, actually, there were 4 of them owned by my brother-in-law, so that was kind of a good recommendation right there. And then when I found the turning radius was better than it was in the Beamer, I thought, well, okay.
And did you notice at that time, before you actually made the decision to buy it, did you notice suddenly there were more Subarus on the road?
Yes,
Now, do you think Subaru was going, Bernice is in Sector 4 getting ready to buy a Subaru. Let's flood that area with Subarus.
No, that's not happening. That's your reticular activating system at work, because you're focused on that car, and then you start noticing the ones like it, the different colors, which color do I like in that particular model. And again, that's how we screen things. So how does that apply to print marketing?
Well, the reticular activator is the gateway to your brain. So it's working on what we call the other than conscious level. You're not even aware. And its whole job is to prevent you from being eaten or killed or hurt. That's basically what it does. It's part of our primitive brain, and it's a survival mechanism. So the light that's coming in right now, the temperature of the room, the ambient temperature, all this stuff is happening, and my reticular activator is telling me what's important and what's not. Now, for you, when you were buying that Subaru, at that point in your life, Subarus were important, and the reticular activator was on notice to say, Subaru is important, keep your eyes open for Subaru. Well, let's take that into real estate. at that point where I'm thinking about buying or selling real estate, every time I hear something related to real estate, I'm listening because it's important to me. But after I've bought a property or I've sold my property, I've moved on with my life, the last thing I need in the mail is just listed cards, just sold postcards, because it doesn't matter to me anymore. And so the reticular activator now says, well, that's all garbage, get rid of it. But what we do, which is a novel way of looking at this, is we've created a newsletter. And agents, this works. You need to be sending out newsletters. Now, before you say, but Michael, we have a beautiful corporate newsletter. That's propaganda. People don't care because it takes them right back into the just listed, just sold. People don't want to know about real estate. But if I were to say, hey, opening up a store credit card, is it worth it? Best things you need to know about your animal living to be 20 years old. Vet secrets that your vet won't tell you. This is the kind of content that people are motivated. It titillates them to want to read it. And so we've created something called Service for Life. I don't want to, promote it too heavily here.
Why not? So actually you offer a newsletter that has this kind of content in it.
Well, it's already pre-done. We've got professional copywriters that put this together. And so it's the type of content that people are engaged with. They want to read it. But more importantly, throughout the newsletter, there are subtle little calls to action to keep you top of mind as the realtor. But we're not banging people on the head, because if they're not ready to do that yet, you're offending them. And the other part of this is you don't just send out a newsletter. Like I said here, it's addressed to somebody with a stamp. Well, obviously, this is going to cost money. So you're sending it to people that you've already done business with, people that already know, like, and trust you. And we call that your power list or your sphere of influence. Those are the people that I said they already know, like, and trust you. So when they receive something from you of value, you're reinforcing the fact that you're the realtor of choice and you're keeping yourself top of mind. So when the reticular activator does think real estate, you've already been seeding that. It's like farming. I've been seeding that area, but I'm in an area where I know the crops are, or where the topsoil is rich and fertile. And that's how this really works. It's not something you send out to the unwashed masses of the world. Your best response will be from people that already know, like, and trust you. And the nature of this content too, what makes it really kind of unique is when they receive it, because it's invited now into their home, it's a type of content that they go back to the realtor and say, hey, how do I get my neighbor on this list? Or how do I get my mother? Or how do I get my brother-in-law on this? Because it's the type of content that they would want to read too. So at a grassroots level, what's happening is now I'm starting to grow my database organically because other people are growing it for me. Does that make sense?
You just raised a really important point, because I think one of the most important questions you can ask about, and using pets as an example, do you have any pets? What are their names? What are, dogs, cats? And then you just mentioned, how to get your pet to live to be 20, your animal to live to be 20 secrets that, your vet won't tell you. Those kinds of things for people who own a pet, very, very high, very high open rate. So being able to segment your database by those kinds of what those topics are, then you can really narrow in and send something that's really appropriate to that particular person, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah. We've been doing this for 20 years. Service for Life's been around for 20 years. So I'd have to think in print, 20 years, if you put that in dog years, since we're talking about pets, that's a lot of years, Bernice. So we know this thing works, but like you have to know how to use that tool. Another thing that really makes this kind of unique is we show agents how to actually get the advertising paid for, or how to get their marketing paid for. And so now it's not costing you anything to get it out, which is kind of a nice way to do marketing.
So you're suggesting then, rather than spending my money trying to send it, excuse me, okay, Kevin, edit that out. So Michael, you're suggesting then what we need to do here is that we really want to focus on going after people that we know, but what about those people we don't know?
Well,
is there any way to reach them?
First of all, you have to look at where's your strongest source of income going to be. Right. And your strongest pool will always be your sphere of influence, because people talk to other people. So I'd rather focus there first. I'm going to invest where I'm going to get the highest return. The highest return will be with people I already know. Now, the question would be for agents just starting out, well, maybe I don't know a lot of people. That's okay. You still want to cultivate that group first, because they will be your best resource for referrals ongoing. Because again, they already know, like, and trust you. Now, can you market to the broad masses? Absolutely. You can take the same concept of using a newsletter, but what I would do is I would go to my doctor's office. I would go to my chiropractor's office. I would go to all the different service providers that I work with, and I would leave my newsletter there. And again, my newsletter is subtly branded. It'll have my picture in the corner. It's got all my contact info. But what will happen is, and you've seen this, Bernice, if you've ever gone to a doctor's office, you can only read National Geographic from 1965 so many times, right? Only so many times you can read, and you know how it's going to end. It doesn't end well, right? But this is, again, the kind of content, when they see it, they pick it up, they get engaged, and 9 times out of 10, they take it, they fold it, they put it into their purse, and they take it home. Now you're building, again, you're building a database with people you don't even know, and they're going to be reaching out and saying, hey, how do I get onto this list? How do I subscribe to your newsletter? And it's built in. The other thing which is interesting, we use psychological triggers that are written in here. So it'll ask questions. There's little contest things. And it may be, you know, I would dig through it, but, you know, what's the answer to whatever? And there's a prize associated, movie tickets. You wouldn't believe what people do for free movie tickets or free coffee. But now they're engaged. Again, it's pulling them in. They're contacting the realtor to answer that skill testing question because they want to win the movie tickets that month.
And you know what? You tell them they're the winner, and you send the money. You know, spend the money on the tickets. That's it. You know, that is a very reinforcing lead.
So the following month, what happens here are this month's winners, or this is last month's winners being announced in this month's e-letter. So what we've done is this has been completely automated. It's in a wonderful WordPress platform where all you have to do is enter in the little bits of data that we tell you to put in. And once you populate your contact info once, then it will go through all the newsletters and update it all the time. So let's say I've got a new phone number. Well, in the old days, I'd have to go through each page and change that. Well, now when you make one change in your control panel, in your profile, it dynamically changes everything where that field would appear. And we've also created the ability now, print is great, but what about my, on Facebook? I've got 2,000 friends on Facebook. Well, with the press of a button, you can now send out the electronic version onto Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. We've built this all into the control panel that it's all seamlessly done for you. So I can literally take the newsletter, which comes out every month as a template, and I should share the link with you, Bernice. It was a challenge that was done to me. Within 90 seconds, it's ready and done and off to the printer.
Okay, so what's the link? Give it to our listeners.
Alex, the mastermind behind reprogramming all this, my business partner, spent basically a year in a dungeon putting this all together. And the challenge was me, Mr. You know, I have to wear gloves when I'm working on a keyboard so I don't break anything. Within 90 seconds, I had it was done, edited for this month, and I sent it right off to our printer, and I had the copy in my hand within 90 seconds. And wow. That's the thing. If we have a print company that you can send it to, so you don't even have to touch it. Or maybe you want to print it off your own printer that you have in the office and take care of it. Our big thing is, when it comes to print advertising, is realtors have to understand this. They do phenomenally well at getting out front of their customers, at listing and selling homes. That's what they do exceptionally well. What we do well is the copywriting that gets people to actually open your stuff, get engaged with it, and generate leads. That's what we do exceptionally well. So what we teach realtors is, can you edit this? Absolutely. Do you want to be doing this? No. Do what you do best. Let us do what we do best. And hey, you know what's going to happen? We're going to make you money.
So what's the link that people can download this to? And since we're speaking to an international audience, will this work internationally? I assume that it would.
I would say that
you're in Canada, we're already international.
Yeah, the content is generic enough that the focus on it is to engage people, to make them want to read it. So it's
okay, Michael, what's the link?
Serviceforlife.com.
Okay, serviceforlife.com.
But wait, there's more, like the Ginsu knives. Yeah.
No, we don't need to do Ginsu. Yeah. But for people that may not want a subscription service if they're trying to do it themselves, what would you suggest? So, have compelling content that is not real estate based. What other takeaways would you
want to start off? There's got to be a captivating headline that speaks to the person I'm sending it to. So what's the hook that's going to make me pick up your piece of propaganda from all the others? And I say propaganda because at that point, unless it speaks to them, that's all it is. It's recycling for them. So if you're going to put together any kind of print marketing piece, there has to be a captivating headline, some kind of hook. And one of the ones that I used to like on a postcard when I did postcard mailings, and postcards work too, is do you know what your neighbors did while you were sleeping?
They
That
listed their house.
and that that was it. Well, that's a captivating story because it titillates and you're hooked in. And there would be a picture of their neighbor, and then the body copy would basically read how they were struggling with getting their home sold and how I provided the service to get it done. And so now it's a story. So it's not
Mhm.
a just listed, just sold, what kind of is, but it leads with that hook to get people interested. And before they know it, they're 3/4 of the way through a story, which is all about what their neighbor did listing or selling their home.
You know,
So
I heard a different version of that a number of years ago. It says, guess what what your neighbors did last night.
yeah,
And then it's got, the cover has got all these people that are partying and look like they're pretty inebriated. And of course they listed their house. So, that postcard got your attention because that's what you want. You've got that split.
that's the key.
What about I talked to one woman whose company had run all these different A/B campaigns, and she found out still the number one thing that people open is what's the value of my house. There's not another campaign. They tried all these different campaigns, digital, print, and that it's still what's my house worth is still something that people. And of course, I mean, you look at Zillow's success, that kind of says it all with estimates.
I would argue that their campaign, if that's the only thing that got open, is because they were sending it to the general unwashed masses. So if you're sending it out to people that have no relationship with you, that would probably work. What's my home worth? But because people are always curious about the value of their homes. But in terms of building the relationship, that's not going to happen because once they've gone through that little nugget, oh, okay, my home is within some kind of value range. And frankly, now you're competing with the Zillows of the world where they can find that information online for free. So how am I furthering that relationship? How am I building that relationship? Well, I'm not. And the other thing, I'm violently, again, well, not violently, I'm Canadian. We don't get violent about anything. What I'm against is giving out free market evaluations, a free CMA. You don't hear a doctor saying, I'm going to give you a free enema. It doesn't happen that way. But the net result is you're getting covered in the same thing, right? It's stuff that people don't want. They're going to categorize it the same way. And so if I'm doing something for free, then how do I turn around and then bring a value proposition to the services that I offer? And so I tell realtors, don't fall into that trap of you're going to do it for free because it becomes a race to the bottom. At one point, there are realtors now that actually pay. Hire me as your buyer's rep and I pay you. Really? How does that even work? And so realtors have to understand, and when I say this, I'm saying it with love and respect because I'm a broker myself, and I've been in real estate since 1989. So I'm not some guy hacking, newsletters. I mean, I'm an executive editor. I still refer business. I do this every day. As soon as you compete on price, you will lose on price.
You lose every time.
You will lose on because there will always be somebody that will do it cheaper. The name of the game is you have to be in this for the long haul. You have to provide service of value, and people have to understand that value. And it all starts with building that base, that what we call the power list of people that already know, like, and trust you. And that's your pot of gold. That's the list that you have to concentrate on first, and then you grow it from there. But if you neglect that group, again, the ones that already know, like, and trust you, oh my gosh, it's like walking into a grocery store and instead of buying the fresh bread, you go to the week old. Why? Do you like bread that's green? Maybe it's St. Patrick's Day. That's okay. But the return, the highest return on investment will always be the people that know, like, and trust you.
Michael, I think that's a great note to end on because that is absolutely one of the basic, it's back to the basics when it comes to real estate. And that's one of the most basic things is go to your referral database, people that know, like, and trust you. We've been visiting with Michael Krisa. He's the executive editor at Agent Inner Circle. And you can reach Michael at agentinnercircle.com. And that link again, if you're interested in the newsletter, is serviceforlife.com. Michael, thank you for being with us today. This was excellent, funny, and engaging as always. Thank you.
Effing funny. Can I quote you on that, Bernice?
Absolutely.
All right.